My mother asked me to go home for an arranged marriage. She said the woman was the one my father had chosen for me and we had been engaged since childhood. Helplessness filled me as I ended my 3-year road trip and made the decision to meet my fiancé. After all, she was the one my father had arranged for me before he died. If she were suitable, I would follow his will. But when I contacted her, instead of a warm welcome, all she sent was an address. I felt unease bloom in my chest. I arrived at the address as scheduled and found it was a business club. Before I even entered, I was stopped. "Sir, this club is members only. You are not allowed in." When the waiter stopped me, I had no choice but to call my fiancée, Sabrina Hartwell. But to my surprise, the moment the call was connected, her mocking voice was heard. "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to actually come. Oh, come on. I'm the future heiress of the Hartwell family. See? Our family background is totally different. Listen, ADR, Ian Walker, you're not even worthy of me." Sabrina's voice taunted me from the other end of the line. "Sabrina, are you saying that our engagement is off?" I asked coldly. Frustration and disbelief weighed on me as I realized I'd ended my trip for this unexpected humiliation. "Since you're here, let's meet." On the other end of the line, Sabrina had apparently spoken to a few people before saying, with a hint of sarcasm, "I'll send someone to pick you up." With that, she hung up. Then, I saw a slicked-back man walk out. He walked up to me, glanced at me, and a scornful smile spread across his face. "Are you Adrian Walker? I'm Miss Hartwell's assistant." He looked at me and said, "Our young lady is a darling of heaven. She's even the richest woman in our city. You're not worthy of our young lady." He sneered, "Look at how poor you are now. You don't really think our young lady will marry you, do you?" Hearing this, I felt a mix of embarrassment and irritation as I glanced at him. One glance told me everything. My clothes clearly displeased him and I felt a self-conscious prickle at his scrutiny. Wandering from place to place the past few years, I hadn't bothered much with appearances. My wardrobe, having seen better days, was full of clothes that had become worn beyond recognition. Despite his insults, I forced myself to remain calm and ignore the man's words. However, disappointment settled in as I now viewed my fiancée with a more critical and wary eye. Even though she was chosen by my father, doubt crept in and made me feel she might not be right for me. Since that was the case, I should meet her and clarify the situation. After all, this was the fiancée my father had chosen and I wanted to make things clear. Seeing I didn't say anything, the man snorted coldly, then turned and said, "Follow me. This place is a high-end club. A loser like you will never get in. Don't wander around, or you might bump into something. I'm telling you, every brick in this PL. Ace is worth more than your life. I don't understand why Mr. Hartwell would arrange a marriage for you and his daughter since you both were still young. But a loser like you has no self-awareness. Do you really think you can marry a wealthy woman and change your life?" The man kept nagging me the whole way, but I simply ignored him. "You've already announced your engagement and yet you dare come here?" The other person whispered to Sabrina, "You can't be fooled by him." "Of course not," Sabrina said with a smile, turning her gaze towards me. As she looked at me, I could still see the disdain in her eyes. "You're Adrian Walker, right?" she said calmly. "I really didn't expect you to be so ignorant. You didn't really think I'd marry you, did you?" As she finished her words, many people around her pointed and murmured at me. "Look at this poor fellow. His clothes are almost white from washing. Sabrina, marrying someone like that would be such a disgrace. Of course I won't marry him. But he's here for our party today and I thought it would be fun to play a trick on him." As I listened to the people around me, impatience began to creep onto my face. "Miss Hartwell, my name is Adrian Walker. I am coming here as your fiancé." I looked at her then continued coldly, "But since you seem not interested in this relationship, okay, I'll be leaving." At this moment, disillusionment washed over me and I no longer had the slightest interest in her. That type of woman wasn't a good match. I thought I should go back and report to my mother. But I didn't expect that just as I was about to leave, Sabrina's assistant suddenly reached out and tripped me. The next moment, I lost my balance and tumbled to the side. To steady myself, I frantically grabbed for something. But when the man saw me stop, he reached out and actually pushed over a nearby vase. The vase shattered and I frowned at him. He looked at me and said, "You broke the vase, so you have to pay for it. This vase is an antique, worth millions. You're just a loser. You'll never be able to pay for it in your lifetime." Hearing all this, I couldn't help laughing. I was standing 3 steps away from the vase, yet the other person claimed I broke it. I turned to look at Sabrina, asking her with a hint of coldness in my eyes, "What do you think, Miss Hartwell?" Sabrina glanced at me disdainfully and said, "Didn't my assistant say that you broke the vase? Then just pay up. But you can't even pay for this vase, can you? If you can't, then beg me. Perhaps I can pay for it for you." I took a glance at her, then looked at the other men and women watching around me. At that moment, I understood something. Sabrina had done this on purpose. However, I couldn't understand. If she didn't want to marry me, she could have just told me clearly. Why should she treat me like this? When I turned to look at Sabrina, she looked at me with a haughty expression and said, "You know, Adrian, because of you, I've become the laughingstock of this city. A girl as adored as me actually got involved with someone like you." She looked at me with utter rage. When I heard her say this, I understood. So, in her eyes, my marriage was a joke, and that's why she'd framed me. At that moment, I soon realized how unfortunate my life would be if I married her. She would put me into big troubles. A woman like her was simply unacceptable. Sabrina looked at me coldly and said, "Adrian, if you just kneel down and beg me and then tell everyone you're not worthy of me, I'll compensate you for this vase." face. Behind her, her male assistant pushed me towards her. You hear that? Our Miss Hartwell is compensating you. It's a huge favor for a loser like you. Look at you now, looking so shabby. How can you possibly be worthy of her? Off to the side, several of Sabrina's best friends chuckled. Lucas, you touched that loser. Wash your hands now. Otherwise, who knows if he has any viruses? How could this loser think he was RTHY of Sabrina? How dare he come knocking on our door? You're right. When he came, this loser probably thought he was sure to win Sabrina. Lucas, he's gonna be your biggest competitor. The women around Sabrina kept talking. When I heard this, I turned to look at Lucas beside me. No wonder he had disliked me since we met. It turned out he had feelings for Sabrina. Lucas smiled upon hearing this and said, Ladies, how could I be worthy of Miss Hartwell? I only requested to always be by her side even though she has got married later. That's enough. Lucas looked at Sabrina and said with a smile, After all, I'm not worthy of a woman like her. Only the sons of the richest families are worthy of her. While I listened to their conversation, a sneer escaped me. Sabrina and his male assistant were having an affair, yet she still wanted to marry into a wealthy family. How could a truly wealthy family marry a woman like this? Lucas, don't say that. You're actually quite good. Hearing Sabrina exclaimed, at least, much better than this loser. As she spoke, she looked at me with disgust and said, Loser, why don't you kneel down and beg me? That's right, kneel down quickly and beg Sabrina, or you'll have to pay for this vase. A vase worth $1 million, can you afford it? These people kept saying to me around me. I smiled at their words and said, Of course I can pay for the vase, but I am not the one who broke it. Loser, it's useless even if you deny it. We can all prove you broke it. Sabrina looked at me and said coldly, Now, if you kneel down and beg me, I can pay for you. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave this club. Don't you know? This club isn't run by just anyone. When they ask you for compensation, you won't be able to pay. I listened to Sabrina and smiled. As far as I know, a private room like this is definitely monitored by surveillance. You'll know who smashed the vase when you check the footage. Besides, even if this vase is worth it can't be worth $1 million. I didn't know the price of this vase, but I knew that, to prevent guests from accidentally breaking it, the value of a vase in a private room like this is typically no more than $100,000. Sabrina did this simply to see my panicked expression upon hearing the price. She even wanted me to beg her. At that moment, she looked at me and I could feel my own anger rising at her lack of reaction. You loser, what do you know? I'm telling you, the price of this vase is something you can't afford. Besides, do you think you can see the surveillance footage in this club? Lucas, standing nearby, suddenly frowned. He looked at me and said, I'm telling you, not only can you not see the footage, but even if you did, we'd all say you pushed it over. What can you do? My expression had already grown cold, my patience replaced by anger as I listened to his words. The woman beside Sabrina stared at me with expressions of amusement. I knew from the beginning, that they'd wanted to see me beg for mercy. Adrian, I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down now and beg me and I'll let you go. Otherwise, you'll have to pay over $1 million in compensation. She looked at me, a hint of impatience creeping into her face. That's right, loser. Don't you think about it? Someone like you won't even make $1 million in your lifetime. Just kneel down and beg for mercy and you won't have to pay compensation. What a great deal. Sabrina, I think you shouldn't be polite to people like that. If he doesn't kneel, we'll force him to do it. Not far away, a few young men, watching the joke, were holding their phones and laughing at me. We actually just wanted to see him beg for mercy, but now that he's unwilling, I'll just beat him until he agrees. As he finished speaking, he shouted directly to the bodyguards behind him, push him to the ground. My face was already grim as I looked at the men before me. Looking at Sabrina, I said coldly, You just want money, right? Okay, I'll have someone send it over. I pulled out my phone and called the club manager. Send $1 million to the private room on the 3rd floor. I hung up the phone and said to Sabrina, the money will be delivered soon. But if I send someone over, do you dare to accept it?